First guest of the evening is truly a poet. He's an artist. He is a friend and an inspiration to anyone who I think who has ever played the guitar or tried to write poetry. Would you please welcome Gordon Lightfoot?
I think you have somebody waiting outside in the rain to take you away. You got place music. And then the other is that his rhyming scheme, there's a lot of internal rhyming. There's a lot of sort of left turns that he makes with the lyrics. It's not a simple A-B, scheme like English teachers might mention. What about you? Why do you particularly like this song?
Well, it is just so deep and so personal. I think we've all gone through someone we cared about leaving at one time or another. And really, if that's the situation, this is the perfect way for a relationship. And as friends, you may have been lovers, and as friends.
Yeah. Yeah, part as friends, which is, maybe the best you can hope for under those circumstances. What to you is the best setting to listen to the song? Is it while you're driving? Is it while you're sitting at home? Is there a particular time of day or a particular place that you particularly enjoy the song?
Well, actually, I do a lot of driving. My career now is as a pilot car driver with oversized loads. So I'm on the road sometimes 10, 12 hours a day. And when I'm with the oversized load, I have to have the CB radio on. But when I come home, driving two loads, it's Gordon Lightfoot music. And his music, if you're down, it can cheer you up. If you're up, it can make you even happier. His songs range from something like Alberta Bound, which has to bring a smile to your face, or Ray Mountaineers, great song. Or as far as pure emotion, looking at the rain, I'm not supposed to care. These will just tear at your heartstrings. And the song I really like that brings a tear to my eye every time is Too Late to Train. I can't get through that. So there's a Lightfoot song for every mood.
Yeah, there really is, isn't there? I think for this particular song, I would want to listen to it after the sun has gone down, but there's still some light in the sky, and I'd probably be listening to it at home and being, thinking about past experiences because, twilight for me is one of the most sentimental times of day. And this song is very, very emotive. I totally agree with you. Let's talk about the beginnings of the song. Although I haven't found anything where Lightfoot has said specifically who or what the song was about, it seems like he's wishing a lost love the best as they move on to someone else or to some other experience or just sort of the next stage of their life. The thing that intrigues me is that the title of the song, and I'm Not Supposed to Care, is the expectation that he is already moved on and he's already cut emotional ties with this person. Is he saying that he does care, even though in this kind of situation, most people would assume he didn't care? Is he saying that this person can hurt him and do anything she wants because she doesn't want a relationship with him anymore, but he's not allowed to have feelings? What do you think the whole message in the title is, Kevin?
Well, I think basically, if a relationship like this happens, people will tell you, move on, forget it, you're better off without her. But she has really touched his heart in a very special way. And no matter what she does, she is going to be there for him, or he is going to be there for her.
Yeah. One theory that I read was that this is not about from lover to lover, but it's actually about a parent to a child, and a parent trying not to completely break down when the kid is leaving home for college or for a job or whatever. I don't know if I take a whole lot of stock in that theory, but do you see where that might fit, or is that just too fanciful?
Well, actually, when you think about it, it could possibly fit. Now, if all our relationships would end, whether it's co-workers, whether it's relatives, with "I wish you good spaces in all the faraway places you go," wish everybody well. That is what we are actually supposed to be doing here.
Yeah.
In the relationship.
So it really could be any set of farewells. It's just kind of, set in the context of a love affair. But I agree with you. It could be set in, a whole bunch of different contexts.
I had just thought when I had been studying this, she is definitely leaving. And who is the someone she's leaving with? That's the question.
Okay. And that brings us to a good, place to dive into the lyrics. Yeah. So starting at the top, I think you have out someone waiting outside in the rain to take you away. And that could be her new lover, or that could be a taxi. I think about John Denver's leaving on a jet plane. Okay, he isn't leaving with a new lover. There's just there's a car waiting. His ride is waiting. So perhaps, perhaps there's a lover, or perhaps it's just a taxi driver.
Okay, and now to carry on that thought, and instead of leaving with a lover, perhaps they're parting because of a job opportunity. She's moving to a different country, which would maybe be a good reason that, the breakup isn't totally terrible. It's acrimonious instead.
We'll be right back to our discussion of I'm Not Supposed to Care with Kevin Hester. But first, a word from one of our podcast partners.
Hi, this is Audie Martello, the host of the Mostly Folk podcast, a 60-minute foray into the music we all love. You will hear newly released albums, classic folk, country, and bluegrass music, as well as some traditional music that may or may not be true to the genre. Sometimes irreverent, often opinionated, but always entertaining. You may even hear a radio magic trick every so often, as well as numerous interviews via Zoom and telephone with established as well as indie artists. Mostly Folk is available wherever you listen to podcasts, and always at mostlyfolk.org.
Yeah, there isn't a sense of, get out of here, damn you. I'm sick of you. You've hurt me so terribly. There's no hint of anger in it at all. And then it says you've got places to go. You got people to see, which that could mean that a new business opportunity or a new job. Still, I'm going to miss you. So this person is busy, or it's possible that she's making herself busy to avoid the emotional trauma. She's contriving some sort of busyness. And then, but anyway, and the fact that he said, but anyway, I'm not really sure why he put that into the song. He's not changing the subject. He's still talking about, this person who's leaving. And I'm wondering, was that just poetic license or something to fill out the lyrics? Do you have any thoughts about that particular 2-word phrase, but anyway?
But anyway, could just be to find the line earlier, away. Anyway, away.
Yeah. So it may be just poetic license then, just to fill out the rhyme. I wish you good spaces in the faraway places you go. If it rains or it snows, may you be safe and warm and never grow old. And I thought of Dylan's Forever Young there, which had already come out, but I don't know how much of a inspiration that particular song was. Although, Lightfoot and Dylan, do have a lot of mutual respect for each other. And if you need someone who loves you, why, you know I will always be there. It's a simple poetic way of saying that he'll always love this person, whomever she is.
Yeah.
And then I'll do it although I'm not supposed to care. And we've already talked about the whole meaning of that. I'll give you the keys to my flying machine if you'd like. Now, here's another question that I would have about this. Is he leaving her a way back to him, or is he literally talking about a plane or a car that he used to own? What do you think?
Well, I had just thought about that too. Well, at that time, Gordon had started flying dolls gig. So that was that. And he is saying perhaps that, hey, if you're somewhere and you feel trapped, I'll get you either to me or to somebody who is safe where it is safe. You will always have an out, a way to get out of your situation.
Mm-hmm. So it's now, you said that he was flying. Does that mean that he was actually piloting, or was he being flown by someone?
I have heard that he at one time may have taken some flying lessons, but he was charging a plane at that time.
Okay.
And he was flying, at the time this was written, he was pretty well high on the hog. He could do anything he wanted to. And charging a jet at any time would have been financially easy for him.
Yeah. So it's his flying machine. It might not mean that he's the one on the stick. It just means that he's the one, this is my plane that somebody flies me around in. And he certainly afforded at that particular time. I will show you the light. And what he seems to be saying is, I'll leave the light on for you, kind of that Tom Bodette Motel 6 feeling. He's not talking about, I'm going to show you the light in the sense that I'm going to be enlightening. I'm not your guru. I'm not going to enlighten you. It's just kind of, I will show you the way home. And when you call, I'm going to come to you. Okay. Now, before we go any further, wasn't there a lyric change in this song at one point, Kevin?
Yes, there was. I was doing some research on this. I found a concert that he did for NEW out of New York for a cerebral palsy benefit, and he changed that particular line from "when you call, I'm going to come to you" to "when you call, I'm going to comfort." And I had to listen to it a couple of times to make sure that was what he said. Now, I don't know how much that really changed the context of the line.
It's a little bit more possessive if it says, when you call, I'm going to come to you. But when she calls, the only reason she would be calling would be because she needed comfort. So I think, either one fits. But he's not necessarily saying, I'm going to drop everything and run to where you are. But he's certainly going to be a shoulder for her, and that's the meaning that I got from the original lyric is, if you ever need my help or a shoulder to cry on, etc., I will be there for you. And then go ahead.
Also had an idea about the light lyric. I will show you the light.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, at this time, he had been involved with Kathy Smith.
Correct.
I will show you the light, a way out of darkness, perhaps an addiction or some other problem on her part.
That could be. I mean, I don't know what the state of her addiction was. I mean, later on, we know that she really gets into hard drugs. And we also know that he was, well on his way to alcoholism at this particular time. Lightfoot was. So there might have been a metaphor there that he was hoping he might be able to, get her out of this addiction that she had, if in fact it was about Kathy Smith. And again, I haven't heard anything definitively to that, but that would make sense.
I have no clue either.
Yeah. Okay. And when you find someone who loves you, I'll know you would treat me the same. Just lie there. You're not supposed to care. And another question comes up here. Okay, is he dismissing her, saying that she won't enjoy sex with this new man, so she'll just lie there, or will she be lying there by herself, pretending that she doesn't care and whether she's with somebody or not?
I really can't answer that, but I just thought of when you find someone who loves you, perhaps you're thinking, gee, perhaps you realize that how good we were together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So so in his mind, she'd be remembering him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that would make sense. Okay. I think, and then we come back to the sort of reprise of the first verse. I think you have someone waiting outside in the rain to take you away. That's some kind of a game. Still, I'm glad it came down to the final round. And yet another question comes up to me. I mean, is he saying that they made it last as long as they could, and now it's just inevitable that they have to part ways? Or that she was trying to decide, am I going to be with Gordon or am I going to be with somebody else? And the decision was such a tough one. Do you have any insight on that?
I think that perhaps he is saying, gee, we had gone through so much together. We worked it out. And glad we did. We had some great times. Let's remember the great times. And our relationship has to end. And let us end on a great note.
Okay. Right. And then to be finishing up, but anyway, if you think you need someone who needs you, I will always be there. I'll do it, although I'm not supposed to care. So he rounds out the song, pretty much in the same way that he began it. So the song did originally appear on Summertime Dream in 1976. It was not put out as a single. This is an album cut. But the album did very well. I think this was basically the zenith of his success. The album was number 1 on the Canadian RPM chart, number 12 on the US Billboard pop chart, number 63 in Australia, according to the Kent Music Report. Now, some of that was because Race Among the Ruins was released as a single, and that did pretty well. And of course, The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald was released as a single, and that did fantastically well. But they never put it out as a single. And my sense is that they didn't do that because it was not catchy enough. It was too heartfelt. It wasn't, it didn't have as good a lyric or a rhythm to it as some others that he'd given. You have any other thoughts about why it might not have been put out as a single?
I think it hit too deep for many people. People are interested in the catchiness. And Sundown was catchy, but Sundown is a Saturday Night Bar Band song. I mean, there's no depth to it. I mean, as an old band say, oh, you can dance to it. I'll give it a 92 because you can dance to it. Where the others, this has deep spiritual meaning.
We'll be right back to our discussion of I'm Not Supposed to Care with Kevin Hester, but first, stepping away from folk music here for a second. When you're not listening to the music of Gordon Lightfoot, are you a fan of true crime, cults, paranormal experiences, conspiracies, and all things sinister? Then take a listen to Sinister Story Hour, a podcast focusing on macabre and monstrous events in the recent past and the not-so-recent. Hostess Stephanie Lynn tells true stories of events that are ghastly, gruesome, but most of all, great fun. That's Sinister Story Hour, available wherever you get your podcasts. Now, back to Carefree Highway Revisited. Yeah, I think it would probably go on the XM station Deep Tracks and not, on, the greatest of the 70s. If it was going to show up on any sort of, formatted radio station. What to you, Kevin, is your favorite musical aspect of the song?
Well, there has to be the lyrics. And the splendid guitar playing that Gordon band does.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's Gordon's band is really so wonderful. They know to never overpower Gordon. They're there to enhance Gordon's voice and Gordon's music.
Yeah.
And they do it so well.
Yeah, they handled it really well. And I think for me, there's three things. Okay, it's a very simple picking pattern. It's not something that, you're looking for Doc Watson or some really, really sophisticated finger picking guitar to do. It's got some very mainstream folky bass runs in it, transitions from chord to chord. Almost predictable, which doesn't take anything away from it. It's just that they are traditional. Okay. And then he does have that nice little touch right when he's singing the chorus saying, "I'm not supposed to care." And he doubles the vocal on that, where I believe he's harmonizing with himself. He overdubs his own harmony. Gordon's not known for harmonizing with other singers. So it's always nice to hear when he is actually harmonizing with his own voice, because he sounds great with that. With the musical people, you mentioned the band, and the importance of the band. Gordon was singing, and he was playing six-string guitar. Terry Clements was playing lead acoustic and any electric guitars, although I'm not sure there was any electric on this particular song. I think by that time, Red Shea had left the band, because he's not credited on Summertime Dream at all. Pee Wee Charles playing pedal steel, Rick Haynes playing bass, and then Barry Keane, although I don't think he played on this song, Barry Keane was doing drums and percussion. So Barry Keane, sort of towards the latter half of the 70s, was the drummer when they were doing drumming in performance. I think Jim Gordon had done a lot of the sessions, but I don't remember that Gordon had ever played with Lightfoot in concert. Yeah. Now, Kevin, if you've got your notes, that's great. If you don't, I'm going to ask you to take a shot at this. How many times has Gordon Lightfoot played this song in concert?
Well, considering it was the track from the 70s, it was probably done the most in 78, 79, 80 area. And what Gord usually had a main set list composing of 18 to 20 songs, and the rest he changes accordingly to how he's feeling, where the venue is. So I would say probably in the neighborhood of 40 or 50 times.
Okay. The total of times that he has played this song ever is 12 times in concert. Ooh. And he has not played it in concert for 36 years. Now, it would make sense that he only played it when he was promoting Summertime Dream. The first time he played it was at the Montreux Jazz Festival in Switzerland in June 1976. I've been in that venue, and it's absolutely wonderful. The last time he played it in performance was at the DeVos Performance Hall in Grand Rapids, Michigan on August 20th, 1985. So he has not played it for 36 years. Other than the fact that he was promoting an album at the time that, then came and went, and he moved on to other albums, do you think there are any other reasons why this hasn't been part of his live repertoire for a while?
Well, perhaps it was one of the songs that really struck him. Yeah, became very personal. But I would also like to make a comment on your number of songs times played. Mm-hmm. The only person who really knows that is Gordon Lightfoot himself. So unless you have access to his set list, it's always a quandary as to what the correct number is.
Yeah, according to setlist.fm, which is the source that I'm getting for all of these, because people have been submitting set lists and some of the artists have been giving their set lists. That was the number that they had. So it's true that Gordon might know better, but I have no reason to think that number is incorrect.
But I also checked into that, and some of the concerts have never had their set list posted.
Also true. But we only know of 12 times for certain that he's played it in concert.
I don't know why. It's simply a wonderful song. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
anyone could listen to that.
You know, it is so wonderful that, in fact, there have been only two people who have ever re-recorded it. George Cadwell and Bob Dylan. And Dylan performed this song in concert in 1998. That has never been released on record, but he did, in fact, record it. And I believe the fact that he would record that really says a lot about how Dylan feels about the song. And because Dylan could record any number of Lightfoot songs, and he chose that one. So it must have made an impression on Bob Dylan, and that's pretty good authority. Before we go, Kevin, you wrote a poem about Gordon Lightfoot, and you wrote another poem that was inspired by I'm Not Supposed to Care. Can you tell us about the poem that was inspired by this song, and then could you read Ode to Gordon to us?
Yeah, okay. Back in the college days, I was seeing a group from out of state, and it was just time for you to leave to go back to the East Coast. And the week before she left, we were out playing tennis, going out for dinner every night. And one day she said, well, just how much do you care? And the Summertime Dream album had just came out, and it was playing in my band continually. So we had listened to all the stuff. And when she said, just how much do you care? I was taken aback by it. And I said good night. When I went home that night, I couldn't sleep. And I kept thinking, Gordon Lightfoot's I'm Not Supposed to Care, such a beautiful song. So this came to me in the middle of the night, a poem called Wishes for You. And I'm sure you can see how this relates to a particular verse in the song. The verse that goes, I wish you good spaces in faraway places. Listen to this, called Wishes for You. Though things have always worked out, and there were times we had our doubts, there was never a bill for happiness due, and these things I wish for you. May your skies always be blue. May your hopes and dreams come true. May your tears be forever gladness and never sad. And though our paths may part, you always have a special place in my heart.
That's beautiful. Well, so it was very much in the same vein as I'm Not Supposed to Care. And I'm really glad that the song made the impact on you. Now, Ode to Gordon, I think you had said that Lightfoot actually had a copy of that in his office. Is that right?
And just to finish with the first poem, when I met Gordon in 2001, first time I met him, had a wonderful time talking to him. And I'm saying, I love your music. And all of a sudden, I come out with, hey, Gordon, I actually paraphrased I'm Not Supposed to Care in a poem I wrote for someone. I read it, Gordon. It's absolutely wonderful. I love it. So then I shared a couple other poems I wrote for him. And I saw him later in 2009. And just before that, a poem came to me. This poem came to me called Ode to Gordon, which had been sitting on his desk for a number of years. And Ode to Gordon starts out with, let me just find it in my note. Okay, here is Ode to Gordon. If you could read our minds, what a tale your fans could tell, all about your music and why we choose it. We'll listen at Castle Dark or Fortress Strong, but usually at home or in the car, it's your music we take along. From our second cup of coffee, driving through the early morning rain, or a ship, train, or plane, as the evening shadows signal the approaching sundown, we know that we're homeward and not Alberta bound. Looking forward with delight to putting on a CD and listening to you on a cold winter's night. And what did we get for loving you? Music that has brought tears to our eyes, smile to our lips. music that touched our hearts, stirred our soul, music that has brought us so much pleasure as we listen measure by measure. It's given us a lifetime of memories to travel.
Beautiful stuff. And I'm really glad that we're wrapping up with that poem, because I think what you've said here really it sums up a lot of what, our listeners feel about Gordon Lightfoot and his music. And that's why I'm happy to be doing this podcast. Kevin Hester, thank you so much for joining us on Carefree Highway Revisited today.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thanks for listening, everybody. If you liked this well enough to listen to the whole thing, tell somebody about it. Carefree Highway Revisited is on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can reach me, Mike Messner, at teachermike72@gmail.com. Our next episode will feature my guest, Michael Howitt, and he'll be talking about Gordon's song, If You Could Read My Mind. Until then, this is Mike Messner reminding you, run for the roses, but don't forget to stop and smell them. We'll see you next time.
I think you had somebody waiting outside in the rain to take you away. You got places to go, you got